Michael Myers, I've been watching you for a long time now, and I think it's time we had a talk. You've got quite a reputation, don't you? You know, that relentless pursuit of vengeance, that blank stare behind the mask. It's become your thing. But have you ever stopped to think, really think about what you're doing? I mean, all those years of chasing after people with knives and terrorizing towns. Isn't it exhausting? How do you keep that up? Michael, my friend, we need to talk about love. Yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but bear with me. Remember that whole love thy neighbor commandment. It's kind of important. Imagine if instead of scaring your neighbors, you, I don't know, help them with their groceries or something. Now that would be unexpected, wouldn't it? Let me tell you something, Michael. Vengeance. It's heavy. You've been carrying it around like a big old burden, and I'm telling you, it's not worth it. I know you feel like you've been wronged, but trust me, forgiveness is a lot lighter to carry. Yeah, I'm talking about forgiveness. Ever heard of it? It's that thing that lets you move on instead of staying stuck in the past. You've been stuck for what, decades now? It's time to free yourself from that cycle. Forgiveness is powerful, Michael. It's not about letting people off the hook. It's about letting yourself off the hook. Imagine the weight that would lift off your shoulders. I know you're strong, but even the strongest person needs to let go of a grudge at some point. You know, Michael, I've walked among the people. I know how tempting it is to react to pain and betrayal with anger, but let's be honest, the whole knife-wielding thing, it's a bit over the top. Picture this. Instead of pulling out a kitchen knife, you pull out kindness. Stay with me. What if, instead of creeping around in the shadows, you just knocked on the door and offered a smile? You'd confuse people at first, but they'd come around. They always do. You see, people expect you to be scary. They expect you to lash out. They expect the mask, the silence, the violence. But you know what they wouldn't expect? Change. You have the chance to surprise everyone in the best way possible. Redemption, Michael. It's not just a fancy word, it's a lifestyle. It's about realizing that the path you're on doesn't have to be the only path. Trust me, I know a thing or two about paths. The narrow path, the righteous path. But I'm not asking you to walk on water or anything. Just maybe try walking towards something a little more constructive. Start small. A wave instead of a stab. A friendly nod instead of ominous breathing from the shadows. You know what I'm saying? And let's talk about that mask, shall we? Michael, you've been hiding behind it for so long. It's become your identity. But here's the thing. You don't need to hide anymore. Whatever's been haunting you, keeping you locked inside that shell, it's time to face it. You don't need to be afraid of letting people see the real you. Yeah, they might be shocked at first. Some of them might even run away, but they'll come back. Because people, deep down, want to see the good in others. They want to believe that change is possible, even for someone like you. Now, I get it. You've done some questionable things. Okay, you've done a lot of questionable things, but here's the beauty of redemption. It doesn't erase the past, but it transforms it. Your past can become your testimony. Every act of violence, every moment of darkness, you can use that as fuel to drive you toward the light. You've already proven you've got the dedication. If you can commit that hard to doing bad, imagine what you could do if you channeled that same energy into something good. It'd be world-changing, or at least neighborhood-changing. And Michael, let's be real for a second. How many people have you actually helped by chasing them around with a knife? Probably none. I mean, no one's better off after a Michael Myers visit. But what if, just once, you tried to make someone's day better instead of ruining it? Think about the ripple effect. You help one person, and that kindness spreads. Imagine a world where people whisper, Michael Myers was here, and instead of fear, they feel relief. That's a legacy worth having. People love a good comeback story, Michael. They want to root for someone who turns their life around. You could be that story. You've been the villain for so long, but the greatest twist in any story is when the villain becomes the hero. I know it sounds far-fetched, But hey, you've got to admit you're not lacking in the surprise factor. People would never see it coming. One day, you're the town terror, and the next, you're the guy who's out there doing good. That would be a plot twist for the ages. You know, Michael, when I said turn the other cheek, I didn't mean just keep turning up in new horror sequels. You're stuck in a loop, my friend. Every year it's the same thing. Halloween rolls around and there you are like clockwork. It's time to break the cycle. There's more to life than this endless loop of fear and violence. You've got potential for so much more. Have you ever tried volunteering? Maybe at a soup kitchen? You could be a silent hero, the guy who ladles out soup with that same intensity you used to swing a knife. Trust me, people would appreciate it. Plus, those knives would be put to way better use slicing bread than... Well, you know. I know you've had a rough go of it. The past has a way of leaving scars. Trust me, I've got a few of my own. But scars don't define us, Michael. They remind us of where we've been, but they don't have to dictate where we're going. You've got to take control of your own story. You've been letting pain and anger steer the ship for too long. It's time for a new captain, and I'm thinking maybe hope, redemption, something lighter than fear, at least. And speaking of scars, Michael, let's talk about healing. I know you've been hurt, and I'm not here to downplay that. But there's a difference between being hurt and staying hurt. You've let that pain fester inside you for so long that it's all you know now. But what if, just what if, you let yourself heal? It might seem impossible, but I assure you it's not. It's the bravest thing you could do. It takes real strength to forgive, especially yourself. You've done things, sure, but that doesn't mean you're beyond redemption. You've just got to take the first step. And here's the thing about healing, it's not just for you. When you start to heal, you help others heal too. Every time you choose peace instead of violence, you're showing someone else that they can do the same. People are watching you, Michael. You're more influential than you realize. And imagine the shock on their faces when they see the guy who used to chase people down with a knife now handing out sandwiches or helping build houses for the homeless. That's what I like to call an impact, my friend. I can already hear your thoughts, Michael. But Jesus, this is who I am. This is what I do. No, it's not. This is what you've been doing, sure, but it's not who you are. People like to put labels on us. They'll call you a monster. They'll call you a villain. But you are more than what people say you are. The truth is, you've been lost for a long time, wandering in the dark. But guess what? I specialize in guiding people out of the darkness. All you've got to do is reach out, take the first step, and trust that things can be different. And hey, it doesn't have to happen all at once. Start small, one good deed at a time. No one's expecting you to go from Michael Myers to a saint overnight. But small changes lead to big transformations. Trust me, I've seen it happen. The biggest mountains are moved one stone at a time. Look, Michael, I get it. You've got a lot of history, a lot of anger, and you've been hurt in ways that most people can't even begin to understand. But think about this. The world's already full of enough pain. Do you really want to keep adding to it? Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to make someone's life better instead of worse. Think about how you'd feel seeing the relief on their face instead of the fear. There's something powerful in that, Michael, something healing. And here's another thing. Fear, it's fleeting. You scare someone, sure, but what does it get you in the end? Nothing that lasts. But kindness, that stays with people. It changes them. And more importantly, it changes you. I'm not asking you to be perfect. Nobody is. But I am asking you to try something different, something radical. Because let's be real, what's more radical for you than a little kindness? Michael, I know what you've been through. The pain, the betrayal, the darkness, it's all very real. But it doesn't have to control you. I've seen people come back from worse. And you, my friend, are more than capable of turning this around. The world has enough fear. It needs hope. It needs redemption stories. And you've got the chance to be one of the greatest redemption stories ever told. And don't think I'm asking for perfection. No one's perfect, not even close. But I am asking for progress, for effort, for small steps towards something better. Imagine, just for a second, that you let go of all that anger, all that pain. Imagine what you could do with your life if you weren't chained down by fear and violence. You could be free, Michael. Free to live, free to help, free to make a real difference.